Hi everyone, I'm Sanya. I am a shaman and a channel astrologer and a coach, and I also host the podcast The Truth of Light. Today, I wanted to talk to you about how Barbault's basket, which is this rare transformation, I keep calling it that because that's what it's going to lead to, a rare formation in the sky between four planets, how that basket, Barbault's basket, relates to the information I've been channeling in The Truth of Light. So, Barboult's basket, to give you a quick overview in case you're not particularly up with the astrology, is a formation in the sky that involves Jupiter in Leo, Uranus in Gemini, Neptune in Aries, and then Pluto in Aquarius. And those four planets are all at 4 degrees right now. And they're closing in, I believe, or are closing in currently at the moment on as exact as they'll be able to get. And the way that they interact and speak to each other is to create a very easy flow, sort of underneath, right? An easy vibe underneath, a harmonious flow underneath. But the lid of the basket, the lip of the basket, is this potentially acrimonious standoff between Jupiter in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. The astrologer who spent most of his life watching Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto and what they do and tracking them vis-a-vis big moments in the collective experience, he actually did let us know that there would be a pandemic in 2019. In 2020, I beg your pardon, he passed in 2019 before he ever sort of got to see, if you like, that he was right about COVID. And for him, this moment in time, this basket, his name is Andre Barbault, hence Barbault's basket. This basket is a moment where old structures start to break down. If you've been following The Truth of Light, you'll know that I talk a lot about how we're at a tipping point of humanity, and therefore old structures will need to break down. The cosmic light beings that I channel, they're called the Ascended Masters. Interestingly, as an aside, if you've been watching my podcast, you'll know I tend to reference the same seven masters. And they've all stepped back only about a month ago, and a new set of the masters have stepped forward. And that was one of those moments in time where I really thought, okay, wait, things are gonna kick off. We are at the start of something. There is one master who stayed on with me as a kind of like a handover guy, as my personal guardian, which I'm very grateful for. But it does speak to the portentous nature of the energy right now. So the way Andre Barbolt talked about Barboult's basket is the breaking down of old structures so that we could sort of begin a new way of moving forward and a new way of living on Earth, if you like, right? There's like a collective shift towards something that's better for the collective. More or less centralization of power or decentralization of power, which is essentially what Jupiter and Leo facing off with Pluto and Aquarius would indicate. The Ascended Masters have been telling me for years, which I've been sharing with you, that we are being asked to shift and change, and that they've been trying to help us. They've been trying to help us so that, if you imagine that Jupiter and Leo is here and Pluto and Aquarius is there, that the tipping point of that polarity tips in the direction that would be most beneficial for us, humanity. So one of the things that I'd love to say is that when we start talking about human consciousness and the tipping point of humanity, a lot of people look out there like, what's going to happen to me? Each one of us makes up humanity. Each one of us makes up the consciousness that's in the midst of change. The way that I've described this sort of tipping point before is that the idea of the sort of breakdown of the old 3D quote unquote world, or, you know, the old earth, whatever language you like to call it, let's just go there. And then the birth of the new Earth, or more people being in touch with 5D, that doesn't happen randomly on its own. That happens individually in all of us. Some of us will be more called to do so. Some of us will be less called to do so right now. That split in consciousness is actually just a shift on the individual level, with one group of people heading in one direction and one group of people heading in the other direction. That is essentially the split in consciousness, or the shift in consciousness. Where things start to get a bit more tricky is that we're being asked to err on the side of light, which means the decentralization of power, because the structures that are breaking down would necessarily be the structures that have kept us where we are and sort of built life and our relationship with the earth the way that it's been built until now. So a lot of astrologers have been looking at Barbault's basket really specifically. And if you remember the planets that I've mentioned, that is Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, those are all men. I've been tracking something slightly different. I've been tracking Venus and the moon because, and Black Moon Lilith, and Lilith the asteroid. I always use Black Moon Lilith and Lilith the asteroid together. And the reason for that is that there is in fact a second formation of Barbault's basket. And instead of Jupiter, god of the gods, male, picking up that last fourth tenet of the basket, we have Ceres. And Ceres is his sister. She's the largest asteroid that we have. Mythologically, Ceres is Jupiter's sister, but also sometimes lover. But more to the point, she's a woman. And one of the structures that is really breaking down, upon which so much of how we live is built, is the patriarchy. Now, I'm a card-carrying feminist in that I don't think that women are inherently less than men in any way, shape, or form, because one is a woman and one is a man. I have never felt that way, and I just don't accept it. The end. How any individual person wants to live their life, whether they feel like living their life as a traditional mum and wife, or whether they want to go out into the world and do something completely different. To me, it's about choice. I'm not talking about feminism in terms of the choices somebody makes for their own life. In this case, I'm talking about this time being a breaking down of patriarchy and a feminine movement in terms of actually the balancing of masculine and feminine, which it's high time that we did. So essentially, we have a world built on a patriarchal structure, or patriarchal structures. That's going to be inherently masculine. It's not going to come as any surprise that in order for that to balance out, we will be heading towards the feminine. One thing to note about this moment in time, and the masters have also spoken about it, and in fact, the Chinese metaphysicians also talk about it, is that it's not just this year, it's not just right now. And you can see that. You can see that in Barbault's basket, because the basket itself, two of the planets, Neptune and Pluto, are both retrograde. So that has an inbuilt, internalized, self-oriented energy that can't be easily expressed out in the world. We also have Mercury retrograde, which denotes that the story isn't quite finished and we'll have to await its communication out into the world. As the basket was coming together, we had a new moon. During that new moon, Venus, who heralded many of these planets as they changed signs, as far back as heralding Pluto through into Aquarius, then Saturn's ingress into Aries, then I believe both of Neptune's ingresses into Aries, then Uranus's ingress into Gemini, and then finally Venus led Jupiter into Leo. That planet, Venus, was at the apex of a yod during the new moon, just before Barbault's basket formed fully. And so you have all these portents. During that new moon, we had a square from the new moon to Saturn. Saturn, of course, is delays and kind of waiting for things to mature before you actually reap what it is you've sown. And of course, next year, when Ceres replaces Jupiter as the fourth planet of the basket, Ceres is the goddess of harvest. And so you have this apparent story of men, right? Jupiter, god of the gods, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But underlying that is actually a story of women and feminine power. And one of the big breakdowns that we're going to see at this time is the breakdown of patriarchy. Yes, there'll be a delay because this energy is gathering now and forming now. It doesn't mean we're going to see something now specifically, retrograded planets, everything else I've just mentioned, but everything that I have been looking at, everything that I've received from the masters, everything I'm being called to do does point to two things. One is that it's the patriarchal structures that are going to break down because the draw is back towards the feminine and the balancing of the masculine and the feminine. And then, of course, there's going to be the shift in consciousness. As I mentioned right up front, looking out to humanity and waiting for the shift in consciousness as though it's going to happen without your involvement isn't firstly very empowering, and secondly is the old consciousness that we're shifting away from. So we're in this really important moment in time. Some people are going to decide against it and be like, actually, I'm just staying in the Matrix. And what was that character in the Matrix who talked about wanting to just go back into the Matrix? That's a thing. And people will be doing that for now. In the meantime, there will be people who want to actually move forward and move into the new consciousness. In my podcast, I've talked a lot about how the Ascended Masters are trying to help us along just by changing the frequencies on this planet and sort of moving them in and out of flux so that we are more receptive to our own spiritual gifts, so that we are receptive to the fact that the life that we've lived so far just isn't really for us, and we're all naturally reaching for something new. Where a lot of people have gotten caught up, and women especially, I tend to work with women, where a lot of the women have gotten caught up, very pertinent considering that this is essentially a feminine revolt or a feminine realignment, is that many women are now in this very long healing cycle, on this sort of healing journey, and that's what they've started and that's where they've stayed. And really, the call for this moment is that we need more women who are willing to move out of a healing journey and move into what I call healing sprints, where you essentially move into creation and then deeply work with whatever comes up whenever you need it to come up. Whenever it arises, it's going to arise. You have the tools to work with it, resolve it, and then continue creating in the world, because that's the energy that's needed. And there is a concern that so many women are just being tied up in internalized trauma processing, that right at the moment where we are all needed to be out there in the world, expressing ourselves and doing things, in the knowledge that, of course, there is stuff that we do need to work through, but knowing that we are not broken, that we are whole, we're perfectly capable of moving forward and creating in the world and handling everything that comes up for you personally and for humanity as a whole. That's the most beneficial response. In the meantime, the masters have been doing as much as they can. They have been attempting to move us away from all the war timelines to not that much success. That is down to, of course, the centralization of power. And in many ways, we're looking at a moment that is the start of something bigger. At some point in there, I started a sentence, which I'm not sure I finished, about Chinese metaphysicians and about how this is just the beginning. That these 2 years, Crimson Horse and Blood Goat, are 2 years of great turmoil. The masters as well talk about how the real changes start happening in the mid 2030s. And what they would like is for this narrative, which is why I'm here doing this, for this narrative to be listened and heard, and hopefully for women especially, but men as well, harder for men, given the changes that are happening, harder for a lot of men, that this information would inspire those to move into less of a healing space and a perfecting space, which is a lot of what's happening in healing now, unfortunately, and move more into a consciousness awakening space, understanding that you're part of the whole, you're not broken, you are whole. Yes, you've had human experiences, and as they arise and come up, it's helpful to have the tools to know how to work with them so that you move into acceptance with them. And that shouldn't necessarily mean that you're taken out of or detouring very far off your own path of creation, your own path of consciousness. From personal experience, it is important that we spend time understanding ourselves. Like, know thyself is, well, is an edict or a phrase or from aphorism or whatever it is that is so well known, right? It's a philosophical way of life. You can't know yourself in the vacuum of just getting to know yourself. In order to really know yourself and expand and understand your consciousness in relationship to a higher consciousness, you need to be in relationship to life and going out there and doing things and creating. And I know a lot of women particularly are finding it very difficult to move at this point in time. And my suggestion would be to find aligned women who are further ahead than you and spend time in their field, spend time in their world so that they can show you the way. And not to necessarily align with the male teachers. Now, if you have a male teacher and you're very enamored with them and you're, you feel like they really resonate, that's absolutely fine. There's no reason why you can't also align with a female teacher. Men are never going to decenter themselves. It's just not going to happen. And a lot of women talk about decentering men in their personal lives. Actually, the place that it could really happen is where you do so in your more public life. That's important because it's important for the women who have gone before to be the example, if you like, and help other women along. And then those women who are being helped along will be helping those behind them along, right? Everybody is on a journey and we're all on different parts of it. But right now, this moment of Barbault'S basket is what appears to be the beginning, even if it's unseen, with all of the delays and all of the hidden portents and all of the retrogrades and so on and so forth. This is what appears to be the beginning of the destructuring of the patriarchy. It's not going to let go very easily. I think that goes without saying. If you'd like to hear more, you can subscribe to The Truth of Light. It's my occasional podcast. You can also subscribe to my occasional newsletter. That's in the link in my bio on IG. And if you'd like to come in to my community, you'll find the link in my bio in IG and on Threads, and that's called the Creation Codes.